in the damp shadows of the Palatine, where white marble sucks the light and whispers cling to the columns like spiderwebs, Lyra prepared the wine. Her fingers, thin as saffron stalks, moved with surgical precision over the silver cup. There was no tremor, no hesitation, just the silent ritual of a woman who had learned, since girlhood in the mountains of Cappadocia, that the most absolute power isn't in the sword, but in the invisible drop that dissolves the bones from within. The wine was sweet, imported from Crete with notes of fig and honey, perfect for masking the bitterness of the aconitum extracted from the roots of the plant her grandmother called Hecate's tear. 1 drop was enough. 2 days of growing pain, 3 of delirium, and then eternal stillness. But today, Lyra did not drip the poison. Today, she just watched. Across the triclinium, General Marcus Valerius Drusus stood with his back to her, facing a mosaic depicting the Roman victory in Jerusalem. His hands, broad and marked by sword scars, gripped the marble railing so tightly his knuckles turned white. He wasn't wearing the senator's toga granted to him after the Judean campaign. He wore only a simple tunic, stained with sweat, as if he were still on the battlefield. Lyra knew why. The nightmares had returned. For 3 nights she had heard him cry out in Greek, a language he had sworn to forget, calling a name. Eleazar, a Jew, an enemy, a friend. It didn't matter. What mattered was that the general, hero of Rome, was unraveling from the inside like a statue corroded by acid rain. She poured the wine. "You have not eaten today, Lord," she said, her voice low, without inflection, like a well-trained slave. Drusus turned slowly, his eyes gray as the steel of a poorly sharpened blade fixed on her. Lyra did not look away. She knew this would irritate him. She knew this would draw him in. "You talk too much for a slave," he replied, but not with anger, with weariness. "And you think too much for a man who has already won all his wars." He laughed, a dry, joyless sound. "The wars we win are the easy ones. It's the ones we carry inside us that never end." Lyra approached, offering the cup. Her bare arms brushed lightly against his as she extended the wine. An accidental touch, perhaps, but she felt the slight shiver that ran down his arm, and she saw for an instant his gaze drop to her lips. It was the moment. She had arrived in Rome 2 years earlier, brought as a gift from a governor in Asia Minor to General Drusus, an exotic present, as they called it. Since then she had studied him, his habits, his fears, his moments of weakness. She knew he drank alone on Thursdays, that he avoided the forum, that he never touched the female slaves despite the discreet offers from friends. He was a man who punished himself. Perfect for her mission. Because Lyra was not just a slave. She was the daughter of a priest of Cybele, executed by order of Vespasian for subversive practices. Her family had been decimated, her temple burned, and now, years later, she was in the house of the man who had commanded the legion that destroyed Jerusalem, and indirectly sealed the fate of her people. Her plan was simple: seduce him, weaken him, and when he was vulnerable, poison him with the same slowness with which Rome had destroyed her world. But something was wrong. Because looking at him now, not as something to be destroyed, but as a man who wept in silence, Lyra felt something she hadn't expected: pity. That night, the general did not drink the wine. He left the cup untouched on the table and went to the inner gardens, where the fountains murmured ancient stories. Lyra followed him at a distance, hidden among the marble columns. She saw him kneel before a small statue of Mars, not as the god of war, but as the protector of those who fight for justice. She saw him touch the statue's face, as if seeking forgiveness. And then he spoke. "I didn't want to kill him, Eleazar. You offered me peace, and I chose the empire." Lyra froze. Eleazar, the name she had heard in his nightmares, a Jew who, according to reports, had offered Drusus a non-aggression pact during the siege, a pact the general had refused out of loyalty to Rome. But now, years later, the weight of that choice was crushing him. Lyra should have walked away. She should have returned to her quarters, prepared the poison, and fulfilled her revenge. Instead, she stepped out of the shadows. "Guilt doesn't kill you, Lord," she said, her voice soft. "But the silence does." Drusus stood up abruptly, surprised, but not furious. "You shouldn't be here. Neither should you be alone." She approached, stopped a step away from him. The moonlight silvered her black hair, making it shine like a raven's wing. "My people believe that wounded souls must be washed with words, not with blood." "Your people?" he asked, frowning. "I am Cappadocian. My mother was a priestess of Cybele. My father, a healer. We were sold as slaves when Rome decided our gods were a threat." Drusus was silent for a long moment. "Then you hate me." "I hate what Rome did, but I do not hate the man who weeps for his mistakes." He laughed bitter. "You are dangerous, Lyra." "All remedies are dangerous, Lord. It depends on how they are used." That night there was no poison. There was no calculated seduction. Just two wounded souls speaking under the moonlight as if the world had stopped to listen. In the following days, something changed. Drusus began to call her not as slave, but by her name. He asked her to tell him stories of her homeland. He learned words in Cappadocian, and for the first time in years, he ate a full meal. Lyra, for her part, postponed the poison. Not out of weakness, but out of curiosity. She wanted to understand how a man capable of destroying cities could have eyes so full of pain. She wanted to know if redemption was possible, or if it was just another Roman illusion. One afternoon, while she was preparing ointments in the atrium, Drusus entered without warning. He was shirtless, his torso marked by old scars, one of them star-shaped near his heart. "What is that?" Lyra asked without thinking. "A gift from a Parthian archer," he replied with a half-smile. "Almost killed me, but I missed my return shot. He lived to fight another day." "Do you regret it?" "I regret every man I killed unnecessarily." He moved closer, watched her hands mixing herbs. "You know how to heal. Why are you here serving wine?" "Because the hardest healing is not of the body," she replied, not looking up. "It is of the soul." Drusus lightly touched her shoulder, a brief, almost fatherly touch, but Lyra felt the warmth spread through her entire body. "Perhaps," he said, "you can teach me." The tension between them grew like a silent vine. At meals, their eyes would meet for just an instant too long. In the narrow passages of the palace, their bodies almost touched. And one night, when Lyra brought scented oil to his chamber, Drusus caught her by the wrist. "Why are you still here?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "You could have fled, you could have poisoned me." Lyra didn't answer immediately. She looked at him, not as a slave, not as an enemy, but as a woman. "Perhaps I want to see you live," she whispered. He leaned in. His lips were centimeters from hers. The air between them grew warm. The smell of myrrh and sweat mixed with the jasmine perfume she wore. But then Drusus pulled back. "I don't deserve this." "No one deserves what they do not ask for," she replied and left. But that night they both knew the game had changed. It was no longer manipulation. It was desire, and desire in Rome was always dangerous. The crisis came with the letter. It arrived by imperial messenger. The Emperor Domitian summoned Drusus for an audience at the Forum. Rumors said the general would be accused of weakness for sparing certain cities during the Judean campaign, a crime of mercy in times of tyranny. That night Drusus drank, not sweet wine but sour Pascha asterisk like the common soldiers. "If they condemn me," he said, his voice slurred, "there will be no trial, only disappearance." Lyra sat beside him, not speaking, just listening. "You should leave," he continued, "before my fall drags you down too." "Where would I go?" she asked. "I am a slave, my life is where you are." "Don't say that." "Why? Because it's true." He turned to her, his eyes full of a pain she had never seen before. because I've started to believe you are more than that." And then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't romantic, it was desperate, like a man who, after years in the desert, finally finds water and fears it's a mirage. Lyra responded, not for her mission, not for revenge, because for the first time she felt that she too had been seen. Not as a weapon, not as an exotic, but as a woman. The next morning, the poison was still in the vial. But Lyra knew she wouldn't use it. Instead, she prepared a different plan. With the help of a Greek freedman who owed Drusus favors, she organized an escape to Ostia. A ship would take them to Alexandria, where they could live under false names. It was risky, but it was life. "Will you come with me?" Drusus asked on the eve of the audience. "Only if you promise me one thing. Anything. That you will never again call yourself a monster." He held her face in his calloused hands. "And you promise me you will never again call yourself a slave." She smiled. "I promise." But Rome does not forgive betrayals. On the night of the escape, the Praetorians surrounded the palace. Someone had betrayed them. Drusus pushed Lyra into a secret tunnel beneath the baths, used by former emperors to escape revolts. "Go," he shouted, "I'll hold them off." "No," she grabbed his arm, "not without you. If I go with you, we both die. If I stay, maybe you'll live." She knew he was right, but she couldn't let go. "Then take this," she said, pulling a small turquoise amulet from her neck, a symbol of Cybele. "So you remember that not all gods are Roman." He tucked the amulet into his chest. "If I live, I will find you. And if I live, I will wait." She kissed him one last time, a kiss full of promises they might never be able to keep. Then she disappeared into the shadows. Drusus faced the Praetorians alone. Not with a sword, but with words. He revealed proof of corruption in the imperial court, documents he had kept for years, waiting for the right moment. The scandal was so great that Domitian, not wanting to appear weak, was forced to exile him, not execute him. 2 months later, a man with an unshaven beard and a simple tunic disembarked in Alexandria. In the streets of the Greek quarter, he found a woman watering olive trees in a small courtyard. Her hair was longer, her eyes calmer, but the smile was the same. "You came," she said. "I promised." She touched the amulet he still wore. "And the poison. It was never used." "Why?" "Because I discovered there are poisons worse than death, and cures better than revenge." That night under the Egyptian stars, there was no glory. There was no empire, just 2 exiles free for the first time, not by decree but by choice. Because in the dark heart of the Palatine, between poison and desire, between manipulation and truth, they found something Rome could never give. Love that is born from ruin and survives history.